Hello everybody, welcome back. Hello everybody, welcome back to Shane's Squirrel Shack, where today we talk about autism awareness and all of that. And as always, want to thank you for tuning in to today's video. So I want to talk about something that I know other autistics struggle with regularly, and that is, having a hard time being able to tell sarcasm or being, someone being a douche to you, and when someone's being a friend or asking for a favor versus someone taking advantage of you. So that's always been something that I've always had a hard time with. Even lately, even to this day, it's really hard for me to distinguish, hey, when someone being sarcastic with you and when can you bounce back and kind of have that kind of fun, interaction versus when someone's actually being an asshole. And the other situations is, when having a hard time telling when someone's a friend or someone taking advantage of you. So I want to share a few stories today and kind of what I've been, what I have tried to do to be able to distinguish the difference between those two. So where do I start? I'm going to start back to when those first instances happened back in college. I noticed when you get a car, you are a target for a lot of people. That's what I have learned. And I remember, I'll share this with you. I remember going to college, going away to college and meeting people. I was on the track team for a second. And so I met a couple girls on the track team. And, the one girl was kind of, mean and all that. And I'll get to that in a second. But, after I started talking to them for a bit, the one girl would ask me for rides. Hey, can you drive me here? Can you drive me here? And, I thought, I didn't know that she was taking advantage of me. And her friend was along for the rides too, they were always hanging out at the time. And even after some time, her friend admitted that, hey, she was taking advantage of you. But before that realization, it got to the point where they convinced me to let them borrow my car for a day. And I wasn't even invited to where they were going. I'm like, what the heck, man? So that happened. So I was like, I thought I had friends for a little bit, but really the one especially was taking advantage of me. So you're going to notice something in a second, that as time goes on with these stories, it's natural to build a distrust towards people, or this negative perception that everyone's trying to take advantage of you. No one's out there, seeing the good in you and trying to be good back, kind of thing. So another thing is I used to have this friend, and I met him back in high school, and we didn't start hanging out until college. Things were fine at first, but then unfortunately, his character, declined, and then it got to the point where he was asking me for rides everywhere. It got to the point where I would drive him, be his DD, he would get completely wrecked, and then I'd have to drive him back. Then I'd have to take care of his mess-ups. I'd have to, be a mom, essentially. And I didn't get anything back. He would ask me for rides, this and that, never give me gas money. He would always take my weed, all of that kind of stuff. Never pay me back. Just stuff like that. And you think, hey, they're going to pay me back. They're going to return the favor because we're friends, right? No. Over time, I found out he was taking advantage of me. And I had a really good friend who noticed him. He's like, dude, yeah, he is. And so, as someone who learns from trial and error, throughout more of those experiences, I started to learn, hey, what's going on here? So I got to the point where, it became too much on his end, way too much liability on his end. Taking care of him the one time, he almost had to take him to this guy to the hospital because he was blackout drunk, didn't eat anything that day. I'm speeding home to get him a meal with him in the back seat. I get a fucking ticket, excuse my French, and he never offers to pay for part of it. I'm like, what? Dude, I'm making sure I don't have to take you to the hospital and, give you all these charges. So I'm going back to make sure I could put a meal in your belly, and I get pulled over for that. So then again, going 22 over and at 55 is not something I recommend. So guilty, flawed there, will admit. Let's move on. Okay, so yeah. And so I'm gonna tell you a recent story that I'm working on now. So at my new job, I met someone who, we bounced off each other, decently at first. So I was like, okay, he's a friend. But then he started asking for rides. I'm like, okay, wait a second here. And I know he doesn't have a car, but we're in the mid-20s. Come on now. I get if you live in Chicago and you walk everywhere, that's fine, but not around here. But then he started asking for rides. And then he started asking me to do favors for him because he was banned in X and Y places. And I was supposed to drive him. He was like, dude, you're driving me to go meet this girl, right? For me to get with this girl, right? I'm like, no. Or, oh, you're driving us to the strip club tonight, right? So he would assume that I would give him rides because for the first few times I was like, oh yeah, I got you, because I let people in too easily. I shouldn't say that. That's what my mind likes to think when I'm taken advantage of like that, or I'm kind of done dirty that way. And so that's that. And lately I've been trying to figure out, like, this is my current, this is a current situation where I'm like, okay. And this guy, he doesn't get the hints. Like, I'm like, dude, just leave me alone. Yeah, you need to back off. And I'm working on how to do that. It's very hard for me to sometimes be, confrontational that way. So that's something I'm currently going through, but we'll keep you posted on that as time goes along. But anyways, the sarcasm part, or someone being an ass. So I remember a couple jobs ago, my manager, he would always, try and be sarcastic and have fun with me, but I was at a different place in life where I was, almost scared of my own shadow, so I couldn't trust anybody. Because I was still hanging out with some of those toxic people who try to take advantage of me. It was just kind of being assholes to me. So I couldn't tell who was being what. So I guarded myself and blocked a lot of potential relationships based off of the couple bad ones that I didn't know how to remove myself from. And it takes time. It takes self-advocacy. And I remember the last time he told me, he was like, hey, you're giving us a ride to this, right? I just flat out, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, no. And this was in the middle of our shift, in the middle of the floor. He's like, no. I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, no. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you heard me. I got other stuff going on. I'm not driving you and a couple coworkers to a strip club. Miss me with that. I'd rather be on my bike. Ride my bike around the city at like middle of the night, right? Screw that stuff, right? Anyways, but then the other day, we're putting stuff away with the truck. And, a part of me couldn't tell at first if he was being sarcastic or an asshole. And so he's talking about, he's flexing on, oh, I got this girl, but her friends are wanting me too. I'm joking because, I don't really give a crap about this. I'm like, hey, send them my way, LOL, right? And he's like, yeah, I don't really see anything bad in you except that, something, a negative is that you're hyperactive. I'm like, what? So that messed with me a little bit. I thought he was being fun at first, and then I stepped out of work after the moment. I'm like, oh shit, that hurt, And so, like, what do I do to be able to distinguish those things? It's experience. It's listening to other people, asking other people that maybe about them, and like, hey, do I have a hunch about this person? Like at work, I'm like, hey, do I have a hunch about this person that they try and take advantage of this or do that and that? And so it's really helped when you open up, and access other resources that, mutually know the people that, you're dealing with. And at least with me, when I was really anxious the last couple of weeks because I didn't know how to read his behaviors and his intentions. But when I started talking to other people, it made sense. And I was like, whew. So it's all about, effective communication, and it's something hard for us autistics is sometimes, we have a social skills deficiency, I like to call it. So, I just hope me saying that can, get a couple people to be more of an advocate for themselves who struggle in the past. I'm not perfect with it either, but all I want to do is get on this camera and say, hey, you got this. And doing this right now for me, I got this. So, yay for motivating. And that's where I'm going to leave it today. And I want to thank you for tuning in as always. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.